Good morning, everybody. It's Doc Green, the Road Scholar, back out here. Hey, guess what? I found out last night something's wrong at the ports because the unions are claiming that they have people sitting in their union offices waiting to be called to move these ports to 24 hours. They got people just sitting there, these dispatchers, radio operators, office personnel, dock workers, and everything else are sitting in their union offices waiting to be called to go to work at these ports, and the ports haven't called them. So it's the company that's running the ports, or the LA Port Authority, that is not moving these ports to 24 hours. So Biden screwed up somewhere because the unions have agreed to move enough workers in. They said they got plenty of workers on standby. Truckers are on standby, stacked up out there. And if you look at some of these other videos by other truckers out there, I mean, you see hundreds of trucks waiting to get into these ports, waiting on chassis and everything else, waiting to get their containers, empty containers taken off and loaded with loaded ones. And that the crane operators out there are going, hey, we were told we were going to go 24 hours and we're still not 24 hours. So someone has lied to us. So whenever you hear that it's a trucker shortage, and I made the mistake of assuming that the union workers weren't agreeing to it, and that's not true. The union workers are ready to go. The truckers are ready. Everybody's ready except for one group. Whoever's running the ports has not pulled the trigger yet on getting those ports 24 hours. Insane. I don't understand this. So that's why our supply chain still isn't up and running as efficiently as it should be. Another reason is because we have China ships sitting out at sea that could easily move right down the port, right down the coastline to Oakland Port and go in there and get unloaded, but they refuse to. They're going to wait on Long Beach and LA. Most of them waiting on Long Beach from what I'm seeing, because that company that has a lease on Long Beach is a company from Australia called Macquarie, which is heavily invested in China. So China's waiting to go into their port so they can get the money back into their country. Isn't that insane that America has sit there and let ourselves get into this kind of situation where 80% of our ports are controlled by foreign companies? And we were warned about this. We were warned for decades. Trump warned us when he was president. We were warned way before then by other people, and no one cared. And now they want to act like this is a big crisis. I guess little Johnny ain't getting his Chinese-made toy this Christmas, so all of a sudden it's a big deal now. And we can't get anything on our shelves from China, so it's a big deal now. And China is laughing all the way to the bank, and we are still selling out to China just as usual. Which brings me to another point. Joe Biden's infrastructure bill that he's pushing, where he says that he wants to tax the rich. He wants to tax the rich Americans, the billionaire corporations and all this stuff, and invest in ports and renewable energy. But guess what I found out during my research? Check it out if you don't believe me. There's a company called Blackstone. There's an American-owned company. They are based out of New York that has a bunch of shell companies, and these shell companies, if you keep following the trail, which I did, it took me hours last night on Google to figure out who was owned, finally got to the top of the food chain with Blackstone. These companies own the windmill farms out in California and other renewable energy plants. Here's the funny part though, even though it's an American-owned company, guess what? They are heavily invested in China. So they're taking the American dollars and investing them in China. How stupid are we? Then Biden says, well, I'm putting billions of dollars into the ports. Here's the deal. We shouldn't be doing that because the company that signed the lease, OOCL, the original 40-year lease on the Long Beach port, has sold out to a company called Costco, who couldn't own it because the federal government got involved. So they made them sell out to another company called Macquarie. Remember that name I just told you a minute ago? Who is an Australian company who is heavily invested in China. Now, they're supposed to be the ones rebuilding the infrastructure. That's the reason they were given a 40-year lease. They were supposed to make our ports the most modern in the world. And instead, they're not doing it. And Biden wants to take your tax dollars after signing our ports over to them. That happened during the Obama-Biden administration. After they signed our ports over to companies that are investing in China, now they want to take your tax dollars on top of that and pay these companies to upgrade the ports which frees up their money, which are multi-$100 billion companies. They go take their money and invest it back into China instead of investing it into the ports like they were supposed to. We're stupid, and I can prove it. Road Scholar out.